We are the nerds. We are the nerds of the apocalypse.
How you doing, Rick? How's it going? Good, good. My name's Steve Lavigne. I've worked on the Ninja Turtles since 1985. I lettered the early comics, did the graphic novels, and eventually became the licensing artist and art director for the company. That's my history. Okay, I'm done. It's much easier for questions. I'm a question guy, so if anybody has questions, I'll start taking them. First hand up.
So what's your take on the new stuff?
The Shrek Hulk? It's an interesting take on them. I mean, it's not the way I would go. I always joke that they would have scabs on their heads from walking through the sewers because they're too tall for the sewers, but it was kind of cool. I mean, I prefer the original Henson suits in the movie. You know, the Steve Barron movie was much better and more personal. I think more of a family type of a group as opposed to the Turtles learning ninjutsu from a book, which is not really possible. It was different. That's the best way I can say without swearing. Next question. Go ahead.
What gave y'all the idea to use turtles for superheroes? Like, why not like some other animals?
Well, I didn't come up with Kevin and Pete did, but it was kind of more of a total joke. Kevin drew one realistic-looking turtle, a little more realistic than they became, with nunchucks strapped to his forearms with a bandana. Pete thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. The next day, they were goofing around, and Kevin kind of loosely a group shot. And Pete took that, and I think Kevin had put Ninja Turtles on top, and then Pete said, "What about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?" And that was kind of the thing. But it comes from, at the time, Teen Titans was really big. The New Mutants had just been launched from Marvel. Kevin was a big Miller fan, so the ninja comes from Ronin. And there was a comic book called Cerebus the Aardvark. And Cerebus was, if you're not familiar with it, is an aardvark, cartoony aardvark living in the mutant world. And he's like Conan the Barbarian. And everyone treats him like Conan the Barbarian. So they just thought that was kind of a neat thing to have an anthropomorphic character in the real world. Boom. Any other questions? I'm done? Oh, no. You in the back, sir.
Why are the turtles obsessed with pizza?
Well, our story on that is we ate a lot of ramen noodles and Kraft macaroni and cheese, and usually Fridays we might scrape together enough money to get a pizza, and me and Kevin would like, okay, half yours, and try to have that for 2 days. So that was like our treat to ourselves. And it just ended up in there, I don't know why.
What does each color represent on the turtle?
Nothing.
Your back?
It doesn't really, I don't think they represent anything. At the time when Kevin and Pete were at Playmates Toys, the big issue that Playmates had was they all had red bandanas, and parents here all know that when you go to a toy store and you're ill-informed as to what something looks like, you can end up with the same turtle. So the idea was to change the bandana colors, and I think Pete came up with the letter on the belt buckle to kind of distinguish for parents to pick out the toy. Next one.
Describe some of your experience working.
Can you
Describe your experience working with the Ninja Turtles?
It stunk. It was the worst time in my life. I've been doing it for 30 years and hated every second of it. No, it's been great. I mean, we had a great dynamic. Early on, all the guys that slowly kind of joined the studio, we all became great friends, and we had Kevin and Pete. We had a really nice studio space. It was an old factory building that we all worked in, and that was a really good environment because you can walk over to somebody else's drawing table and see what they're doing, and sometimes you're looking at something they're drawing upside down, and you're seeing something completely different as they're drawing it, and in turn you could go back to your table and go, I'm going to draw down what I was thinking. So it was just a nice back and forth. We all worked well together. At times, knocked heads. At times, just loved each other. Still love each other. So it's a good group. It was a good group. Yes, sir.
Why do you make the mouse the needle?
What? The mouse what?
The mouse the needle? You're talking about that.
Oh, make Master Splinter the leader? Master Splinter found the turtles, and he raised them. So he's like a father to them. That's why he's the leader. Make sense? Okay.
Kevin Eastman has long said that you were the inspiration for Michelangelo. So, if there's any truth in that, could you say to what extent, and if you have a personal attachment as a result?
Lies. No. I was a goofball. You know, I was the guy in the studio that kind of kept everything a little light. You know, if somebody was knocking heads, I was the guy kind of pointing out that they were both being idiots type of a person, you know, so you don't realize, I mean, a lot of the stuff got put in there ad nauseum, goofy things. My son is a big, that's a little off subject, big Bill Murray fan, but it gives you an idea of how this happened in the Casey Raphael, when Casey leaps off the building and he's saying Goongala. It's from Caddyshack. It's a very, when Bill Murray says Goongala, you know, so ad nauseum things were said, so I think a lot of things ended up in the book that just came out of our faces. So they ended up in the book, and unfortunately, I guess I got attached to Michelangelo. No, I love Michelangelo, so I appreciate it. Yeah, any other questions? You in the back again, sir.
How do they talk?
How do they talk like this? Hello?
No, how do they be able to talk?
How do they what? How can they be? Because they're mutated.
How are they able to talk?
Because they're mutated. Couldn't come up with anything better than that. Come on.
So, if you're compared to Michelangelo, are you the one that started Cowabunga?
No, I did not come up with Cowabunga. There's a lot of other stuff was said, but not Cowabunga. I think that might have come in, I think with the animation company, when they started doing the cartoon, the writer David Wise, I think that might have come from him. Because I don't remember that appearing in any of the Turtle books previous to that. So that might have been a David Wise thing. Any other questions?
Do you have any say so like the anime series that
Not anymore, but the original series, yeah. Kevin and Pete reviewed the scripts and kind of went through and changed things that they wanted to change and stuff. But I think a little later on they had a little better control over it. Early on, it was such a big. You went from just drawing comics to all of a sudden it was toys and stuff like that. So they got a little overwhelmed, I think, early on. But especially with the 2K series that came out of the Turtles, Pete really oversaw that. I mean, really oversaw it. Helped with the writing. Helped, like, hey, this character makes no sense. How about this? So I think at that level, he had a little more control over that.
Why aren't they samurais?
Why aren't they samurais? Because they're ninjas.
How did they become ninjas?
They were trained by Splinter.
Who picked out the weapons that the turtles would have?
That was Kevin and Pete. I think they each kind of assigned them their weapons, just like their names.
What do you think of the most recent animated series like this?
I love the new Nickelodeon series. I've talked to a few people at the table, probably somebody in here now. My big thing is those guys were all turtle fans. The animators were all grew up with it, so they have a real love of the property. And the first year was a little struggle, I think, for them with Nickelodeon and stuff. But from the second year on, it's just a really fun show, and they really did a great job taking the early stories from Mirage, even stuff from the 2K series, and of course the PT and Cowabunga Turtles are all over that. So I just think they're doing a great job and recreating some of the characters. I mean, I like to say that, because Kevin and Pete, when they were first doing the books, I mean, they killed the Shredder in the first book, so they weren't looking down the road to, for the future, so to speak. And April came into the books as Baxter's assistant making Mausers, so she was an adult. But I love how the new show they've made April a teenager and Casey a teenager works better dynamic-wise with Teenage Turtles, and great with Splinter because he's been able to train April and do stuff. So I just, hands down, I think they're doing a fantastic job. Any other questions? I'm done. Oh.
How did you feel when the first animated series came out and started?
It was mind-blowing. It was really cool. I mean, because all of a sudden you saw the turtles moving around, not just in a comic book. In the first 5 episodes were, at the time, they were a lot of toy companies that were doing like a week of animation just to launch a toy line, which was in essence what Playmates was doing at the time with the Turtles, but it took off. So they had to hustle back in and start writing scripts, and producing new cartoons because it turned into a much bigger thing than we imagined and much bigger than everybody imagined, I guess.
I'd like to know what your favorite Mirage issue is across 30 years of books.
Boy, that's a tough one. Well, I love the City at War arc. That whole story arc I thought was really, really good with Zog and everybody. So I mean, I couldn't nail it down to one. I mean, I should say the first book, but I think that was probably some of the better storytelling. That whole City of War arc I thought was great. I'll get this one first. I'll come back.
Did you have any say in the original Ninja Turtle movies in terms of the storylines with their origins?
Well, the very first one, Steve Lavigne, who directed it, was amazing. He took a lot of the books, like the original Mirage books, so there wasn't so much a say as he literally took pages. Instead of storyboarding the movie, he would take, stick up a page, okay, we're gonna fill this, and then stick up another page, and so he basically storyboarded the original movie with the comic book. So for us, it was, again, like watching real turtles run around and do stuff. Right movie.
Can you explain like how you met the creators of Turtles, how you got your foot in the door making comic books in the first place?
It's a really horribly boring story. Well, I've known Kevin since high school. We went to high school together. We just hung around a lot in the art room. I still tend to be a little more of a cartoony guy. I would have wanted to work for Warner Brothers. I wanted to do Disney or something like that when I was younger. And then as Kevin and Pete created the Turtles, Kevin and I were still hanging around, and he offered me to do the lettering in the early books. And I had to get okayed by Pete. Once I was okayed by Pete, that's where I kind of kicked in. So it was just luck. I mean, Kevin created the Turtles, and I went to high school with him. The very first Turtle movie is my favorite. The very first one. I do like the other ones. I like the TMNT one, the CGI one, but the very first movie is perfect in my book.
Yes, I heard back in the day that when Kevin and another guy made Ninja Turtles, it was more catered to adults.
Completely.
Is the Nickelodeon Turtles today, is it kind of like closely similar to what they originally are?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the new series has a little more action than the older series, of course. And in the older series, there was a lot of chucking of pizza to stop people and stuff. So I definitely think it's a little closer in that way. I mean, they've recently done things on the new show that have pulled in some of the stories that were wrote at Mirage. Yeah. They pulled in the 2K stuff, like I said. So I just think they're doing such a great job with that, and I think it does lean itself a little bit more towards the original. It's a little darker, but not heavily dark, but darker.
I've heard when you write a Star Wars book, you're given these boundaries not to go past. The same thing when you had to expand the universe of Teenage Mutant Turtles.
No, well, the great thing is Kevin and Pete were really gracious about allowing an artist or a creator to tell their own story, even their own vision of the Turtles. We heard it from fans at times, with certain issues like, but it was fun for them to be able to try it. I mean, we've all been able to play with the Turtles a lot of different ways. We did portfolios, and we did the Turtles as a Big Daddy Roth style. I've done them as two-shaped turtles and different things like that. So they've always been great about allowing it, and that in turn you get a lot of different stories, which is nice. You're not stuck with the same story over and over. You get a lot of different things. So I think it's fun to let people play around. I don't like those. You can't touch this character over here and this character over here. It's definitely not fun. It's fun to let people play.
How did you make the shredder so dangerous?
How do you make the shredder so dangerous? Well, you want to know the origin of the shredder? I'll tell you, it's not that dangerous. The origin of the shredder comes from washing dishes. Kevin and Pete were living together at the time. Pete's wife was teaching, so she made all the money. But she cooked dinner. Kevin and Pete had to do the dishes. Pete was washing, Kevin was drying, and a lot of people have a nice cheese grater in their house. Kevin slipped the cheese grater on his arm and went, "Man, can you imagine if these were big and nasty like that?" So it could have been the shredder, but he could have been the grater, but he ended up the shredder. So it was literally from a cheese grater. It was literally from a cheese grater. Go ahead.
How did you come up with cuddly cowling?
Well, I only did the design. That was a Steve Murphy or Dean Clarraine. That was just a way to get the turtles in space, and I don't know how we came up with Cuddly, the interdimensional cowlet, but I got to design him, so it was fun to. And I love that he spit the turtles off, which I thought was funny. But that was Steve Murphy getting the turtles in space to wrestle, I think. So.
Have you done any work on the IDW?
I do covers for IDW, the Adventure series, and I'm hopefully doing one of the new Batman Turtle Adventure covers. Rick.
So, Casey Jones is like one of my favorite characters of all time. Where'd you get inspiration for him? Like, where'd that come from?
Bad TV, Rick. Bad TV. Casey Jones, yeah, he's kind of a hybrid. Kevin came up with him. He was just kind of thinking of a vigilante, and I mean, the name comes from a Grateful Dead song, and it was literally that. I mean, the way they wrote Casey, watching bad TV, and becoming angered by the news and bad things happening, that he took it upon himself to become Casey Jones.
Did you ever make any pitches for Archie or Mirage or anything like that? Just story pitches?
Oh yeah. I mean, I did two in the Archie series with the Chameleon that I co-wrote. I kind of plotted and passed it off to Dean Clarraine, Steve Murphy, and he kind of took it over from there. So and we all had little bits here and there and stories, and got to throw in our 2 cents, so to speak, when we were allowed to. You know, if they were working on something or stuck on something, we all kind of brainstorm together every once in a while. So we got to play a little bit. We're done.
Which turtle do you identify with?
Well, by default, Michelangelo. I actually would. I like Mikey the best, anyways. But because Kevin has said that his personality is based on me, love Mikey. But I get a lot of like, how come you don't wear orange?
Who created the intro name?
Well, Kevin and Pete.
How did they like?
Well, in that drawing that I mentioned earlier, where they did all 4, Kevin had put on top Ninja Turtles, and then Pete threw in the Teenage Mutant to kind of. He felt it had a nice little ring to it.
No, not that. Like Michelangelo, Raphael.
Oh, their names.
Yeah.
Those are their favorite Renaissance artists, so they each took 2. So it was, I think Kevin got Michelangelo and Leo, and Raphael and Donatello were Pete's 2 favorites. So that was the love of art, you know, and their art history background a little bit. You know, Pete has more of an art history background than me or Kevin or anybody in the studio, but that was the impetus behind it, was just kind of the love of those particular artists.
What was the process like coming up with all the bad guys? Were they intended to be comic relief, or were they supposed to be like scary?
So I couldn't hear the first part.
What was the process like coming up with all the villains?
Okay, well, a lot of that was, that was, again, a lot of the animation company working with the toy company, because they were trying to create more toys, I guess. You know, that's why we always joke, it's like every week somebody's going to mutate something and it's going to be something new. But again, even that we got to play around with and create some of the characters that went in there, and it was always fun to mutate. But there was always a weird Playmates law that things had to be kind of half mutated. So, you know, they had to have like a real leg and a real hand, and there was a tentacle arm and a tentacle leg and whatever else. They were always have to be kind of a weird mashed together character. It's cool.
How did you guys get in partnership with like toy makers to make the Ninja Turtle products?
Well, that again, that we had a gentleman, Mark Friedman, who was a licensing agent for, I think it was Harmony Gold, something like that. He represented at the time Robotech, and Kevin and Pete had licensed, before anything, the Turtles for a role-playing game to Palladium Books. This gentleman, Kevin Sibieta, And this gentleman also had the rights to Robotech and some other stuff. So Mark Friedman, the licensing agent, came to talk to him and about Robotech, and he said, hey, just on a whim, he said, do you have anything that people haven't seen, that's not licensed? And Kevin Symbieta instantly said this. He picked up a turtle role-playing game. He said, we're on a third module of this. We're doing, lead figures. This is crazy. It sells better than most of the, actually licensed stuff. So Mark took a real crapshoot, and he came and met Kevin and Pete. At the time, Mirage was publishing a book called Prime Slime Tales, and there was a gentleman, Tony Basilicato, who made puppets, like Henson-style Muppets, and he made each Kevin and Pete a big turtle. And Mark took one of those on the road with him to go talk to the toy companies, and he got the door slammed in his face just about everywhere except for Playmates. Everyone just couldn't see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a thing. And Playmates, at the time, they were making some action figures that weren't theirs, and they were doing baby dolls. That was the big thing. So they wanted to get into boys' toys, and they took the chance. So they've had the license ever since, which is great.
What do you like and dislike in the industry today versus 20, 30 years ago, and where do you see the industry going in the next 10, 15 years?
Well, I like and dislike. Well, I dislike more than I like. It seems like now, when the Turtles were out and Kevin and Pete were able to own them, which now if you took a property, if you created a property and went to somebody to potentially get it into animation or toy form or something like that, you have to sign it away. You can't own it, they want to own it, they want to, if you're working with Nickelodeon, you get a certain percentage, and that's it. You have nothing. And it could be a huge amount of money, but it's not the huge amount of money that you would get if you own it. So that's kind of gone, from the industry, which I think that stinks. And right now, the comic industry, there's a little bit more of a resurgence, but for a while, there was no independence, or there wasn't a lot of independence that were getting any press. And slowly, they're starting to, come back around, I think. There wasn't, it seemed like in the 80s, there was a little more, there was a nice big void that needed to be filled, and the Turtles started it, and then there was a ton that followed, including radioactive hamsters and other stuff. There was little rip-offs or whatever, but they were homages, an homage. Hope I answered that okay.
Thank you. I have kind of a double question. I would like to know your favorite moment as a creator by association with the Turtles, and what your favorite work you created for the Turtles was.
Wow. I haven't created my favorite work yet. Just everything. It's tough to, I like it. Every time you do something new, sometimes you like it, like something, other times you hate it and stuff. But favorite moment, well, I mean, to me, myself, it was really fun to do like portfolios, because everyone got to really have fun in those, and everyone just got to do crazy things visually with the Turtles. So everyone, Jim Lawson did one with a dinosaur. So it was always kind of cool those were neat, and that was one of my favorite things, because I'm a big Daddy Roth fan since I was a little kid, so to do a Rat King style turtle was very cool to me, and have the man and Shredder in it was really fun.
Who came up with the Tortuga, the Ninja Turtle dump truck?
That probably, I want to say that was Playmates. I'm going to say that was Playmates, because Jim Lawson did a lot of vehicle designs, but I really think that was a Playmates design.
Why'd you make Raphael?
He's not mean. He's just got a chip on his shoulder. He's a nice guy. Him and Mikey get along. They all get along. He's just the hothead. That's not necessarily mean. He's just the guy that snaps a little quicker than the rest of them do. Is there going to be another one of those questions? Okay, go ahead. How old was I when I was very young and handsome at that time. I was 22 when I started working on the Turtles in 1985. Don't do the math.
You mentioned being able to look at people's drawings on the table. How is a lot still done on paper or how computers when it comes to?
I think that varies artist to artist. I myself, I went kicking and screaming onto the computer because, to me, it was so great to have all the different paints and stuff around that you did as you're working on something to do something with. computer, I always have a hard time thinking that, okay, here's a thumb drive with all my art on, you know, because I have a gallery in my shop, and it's so nice to hang up original art. Because my way of learning a lot of times is looking at a piece of art. You know, you just go, oh, okay, I see how they did. Oh, that's that. You know, so you don't get that with a computer as much, you know. So I really think that I'd like people to do more physical art, you know, but I think it's, you know, unfortunately, guys in the studio, we still tend to draw and then scan in color, so we have a black and white original, but, you know, comics now, I'd say probably 70% is done on a tablet, you know, so very different world.
What's your opinion of like fan art? Like whenever you walk around in the exhibit hall and you see everybody like drawing
Yeah, I love it. You know, I mean, it's great. It's humbling sometimes, you know, because some people are, I mean, amazing. You know, I mean, we love doing what we're doing, but these guys, there's people that draw stuff that blows our minds, you know, so it's very cool. It's exciting and humbling, I guess is the best way to put that.
You guys ever thought about making a theme park with the Ninja Turtles?
It's funny, it'd be great. It'd be in the sewer. You know, it would always smell good. You know, a while ago, quite a few years ago now, Disney, in the theme parks, they had a meet and greet. They had like a turtle van with April and turtles. And they had talked at that time about doing, you know, like a turtle-themed pizza restaurant and maybe a ride, but it never happened. I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't happen, but it would have been fun to see.
I'd like to know your opinions on both the Next Mutation and the Image comics.
Yes and yes. Oh no, I actually like the Image comics. I thought they were really good. I'm not a big Next Mutation fan. I hate to say I was, not excited about Venus, and not anything more than, you know, you had a group dynamic and she was unnecessary to the group to me, but I just thought it was a little strange. You know, it was kind of really weird little show. What, last year? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Then I probably saw them all, so that's a safe assessment. Anybody else? I'm out of here. Oh. Okay.
How did you and Ryan Brown come to be creative partners?
I hate Ryan. Oh no, Ryan, we just like, you know, Ryan kind of a more cartoony style like I had, so we kind of appreciated each other's stuff, and when it came time for the licensing to occur, the first few pieces I inked myself, you know, that I did, and then I mentioned it to Ryan, you know, I said, hey, I should ink this stuff. So then from there it kind of turned into us doing all of them, which are the majority of it, which was a lot of fun. Is that a hand up over there, sir? What's your question?
How did they ride on their skateboards?
How did they what on their skateboards?
Ride on the skateboard.
The same way you do with your feet and you push. No? They love skateboard. Well, they have the nice sewer, so it's like a half pipe almost all the time. So you always get a full half pipe to do it in.
You the one that made the TV show where like they went to space?
You mean a new show? I didn't make the new show, but I like the new show. I like him in space. Love Future Toy.
You guys know the Michael Bay produced Turtles, or did you?
Well, there's one person in the studio who was kind of a consultant that probably likes him better than anybody else in the studio. He was in the new movie. Kevin's been a big proponent of him. All the rest of us, I have a shop in the town that I live in, and I have people coming in and asking me if I'd seen the movie, and I was like, I haven't seen it yet. It happened to be playing at the drive-in that week, so me and my wife went to see it at the drive-in with Guardians of the Galaxy. So when people came in the following week, my response was, hey, did you see the new Turtle movie? And I'd be like, yeah, I did. Oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy was amazing. That's my take on it.
If you're Michelangelo, then who's
Eastman. Kevin is probably closest to Raphael. And he's a super nice guy, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, he's a super nice guy, but Kevin, when the hair on the back of his neck was up, you were in trouble.
So does he have like a pet turtle called Spike like Raphael?
No, I had a Michelangelo until a couple years ago. I gave it to my nephew. I didn't name him. Okay. Okay.
Walking Dead. I know it's more on the subject, but Eastman that was in the episode of Walking Dead teaching Morgan how to use
No, but it was great because he had the 4 turtles up on the wall, so it was a total homage to Donatello. But yeah, Kevin doesn't have that kind of stuff. I got 2 more questions.
What's your ringtone on the phone?
No, I have a few Elvis Costello songs as ringtones.
I thought I'd ask.
Why'd you make Donnie the smart one?
Well, Donnie is Pete. Pete was kind of that. That was Pete, and Pete's the tech nerd and likes all that stuff. So that's how Donnie got to be Donnie. Was more of Pete's personality. And I think I have to wrap this up any second. One more. I'm getting one more. Way in the back.
What do you thought about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover with Batman? And if you pick any characters, either from Marvel, DC, or anyone, we'd love to see the crossover for the Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Well, okay, myself, I would love Batman because I love Batman. I liked the crossover quite a bit. The only issue I had, I thought that it was cool, but it was like you got a toy box full of toys. You can pick a couple out to tell the story, but when they brought every villain in the Batman world into one comic, it was a little overdone. A little bit too much for me. I'm trying to think of a really good crossover. There's a lot of characters in the crossover with the Turtles. I don't know. See, I still think that I'm actually getting to do. They're doing a version of the animated Batman and the animated Turtles. I'm getting to do a cover for that, so I'm loving that. So I'll just stick with Batman. And I think that was it. Is that it? I'm getting the nod. Yes, that was it. Yes, that is all, people. Thank you very much.